Well, the Christian Parapsychologist Journal is 50 years old this year, and as such, we're holding an online anniversary conference for anyone interested in learning more about the interface between Christianity, parapsychology, and the paranormal. And it'll be held on June the 28th, that's a Saturday. And one of our guest speakers is Jimmy Akin, who will be speaking on spirit communication, a fresh appraisal. For our viewers, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I guess first thing to say is I'm an American. I was born in the state of Texas, but I grew up here in my hometown of Fayetteville, Arkansas, up in the Ozark Mountains. I spent about 30 years, though, living on the left side of America in San Diego, California. I have worked as a Christian apologist for over 30 years. I work for an organization called Catholic Answers. Website is Catholic.com if people want to check it out. And I continue to do that, but I also have an interest in parapsychology. And I actually teach parapsychology for the Ryan Education Center here in the United States. But people in other countries can take classes too because they're all conducted online.
That's fantastic. Okay, do you have any particular research interests or specialisms that you can tell us about?
Well, in terms of parapsychological interests, I'm interested in the field broadly. I've done some academic papers with co-authors on remote viewing and so forth, and I have future research plans in that regard. But I also have done a lot of work on survival of bodily death, which is one of the main subjects in parapsychology. And so I study that quite carefully. I have some papers I'm going to be writing on that. And it takes up a good bit of my research time in the area. I think there's a lot to be explored there, and that looking at the intersection also of religion and parapsychology is sort of a third major research interest of mine, and I've taught classes on that.
That's really exciting stuff. It's good to see that Christians are actually getting involved in this instead of being running away, frightened. We're actually being a voice in the marketplace.
Well, and we have been historically there after parapsychology became an organized discipline in the late 1800s. There were Christian ministers who were known as parapsychologists, like Walter Franklin Prince here in the United States, Father Herbert Thurston over
Mm-hmm.
in England, and on the continent, Father Alois Weisinger. They were three religious ministers, both Protestant and Catholic, who did parapsychological research and contributed to the field. Going back historically, though, there's been a lot of discussion of parapsychological concepts in Christian circles, including from doctors of the church like Saint Augustine, Pope St. Gregory the Great, and St. Thomas Aquinas. All three of them were either open to or positively believed that God had built psychic functioning into human nature as a natural human ability. For example, St. Thomas Aquinas referred to what we would call precognition as natural prophecy to distinguish it from the supernatural prophecy that God gives.
Indeed, I mean, I've just finished typesetting a new update of Augustine's De Cura Gerenda Pro Mortuoris, um, which is how to help the dead, basically. So I've just been working on that as a study guide. So, spirit communication, a fresh appraisal. It sounds really scary for some people, but can you give us a brief overview of what you're going to be talking about and help attendees better understand these often misunderstood areas of Christian teaching?
Yeah. So Christian spirit communicating with spirits, especially the spirits of the dead, has had a bit of a bad rap in Christian history, and this is
Mm-hmm.
something that's an inheritance from Judaism. If you read the Torah, the first five books of the Bible, there are condemnations of the Israelites using mediums.
Mm-hmm.
And there are also later passages in the prophets that mock the use of mediums and so forth. And these texts were kind of picked up and incorporated into Christian warnings against communication with spirits without a lot of reflection. And that's especially true today when many people don't have a sense of the broad scope of either the biblical tradition or the Christian tradition. They just know these are certain passages, and that just proves that Christians are not supposed to have any contact with spirits. But there are actually exceptions to that, even in the Old Testament itself. And also, the New Testament actually expects that Christians are going to have communication with spirits in some form. First John says, test the spirits to see whether they're of God. Well, that presupposes, one, you're going to have contact with the spirits, and two, that you're going to be talking to the spirits, because you can't test them without talking to them. I mean, it's not like we can, use a gas chromatograph to determine anything about them. You got to talk to them. Yeah. And so there's actually an expectation in the New Testament that Christians will be talking to spirits. And if you look at later Christian tradition, you see things like prayer to the saints and prayer for the saints, or prayer for the souls in purgatory and so forth. And there's a rich history of apparitions of spirits. You have St. Thomas Aquinas talking about, in his opinion, you could ask a dying person to reveal something to you about their state after death, like did they make it to heaven? And if you can do that while they're in the process of dying, if you have a loved one who's passed on, couldn't you just say, honey, please give me a sign that you're okay, and get the same sign that your loved one is okay? So there's more flexibility here in different Christian traditions. Of course, the modern Pentecostal charismatic movement also involves communication with spirits. And so in various Christian traditions, there's been more flexibility on the subject of communicating with spirits than a lot of folks realize. And I thought it would be beneficial to say, okay, let's take a fresh look at this. Let's survey the data in a neutral way from multiple different perspectives, and see what lessons we might be able to learn about just how much flexibility or inflexibility there is on this topic.
So pleased that you've agreed to come and speak to us at the conference. Really looking forward to hearing what you've got to say further on this. So thank you very much, Jimmy, and we will see you on the 28th of June this year.
My pleasure, and I look forward to it.
Take care. God bless. Until then.